on the call today. I think many of you interacted with Amanda from marketing to get registered. Ben Sawyer did the demos for us that we're going to be showing, and then he'll be on the call later showing some live interaction depending on questions, and then myself from the sales standpoint. Fishbowl Solutions, we've been around since 1999. PTC partner, heavily invested into Windchill and the whole PTC stack. We have about 45 employees, most all of us out of the Minneapolis office here in the Midwest. We do have one over in the UK. All right, so from a Fishbowl standpoint, we are a PTC partner, and we're a software partner. So what that means, we've developed a number of solutions, off-the-shelf solutions. This slide shows a few of the popular ones that we offer, and we're focused on bulk loading today. There's nothing glamorous about bulk loading. Any of you that have gone through projects, it is it's a critical piece, and the faster and easier, the better. But really, the business problem's simple, right? You got a bunch of data, and you might have multiple CAD systems, you might have multiple other PDM systems, and trying to get that as data into Windchill, that's the problem. But the faster you can get accurate data, get good data loaded in a Windchill, the faster you can move on to, tackle what you really bought Windchill for, which is, improving your product development process and various other business processes. So, let's talk to that. And the customers that come to us generally fall into these buckets, and I'll kind of do project overviews for each one. Windchill Merge, or number two, there's just, you've got a lot of data that's sitting on the file shares that you need to get into Windchill. Very popular these days are people coming to us with, especially SolidWorks, PDM Works, or ePDM, but it could be Team Center, PLM, PDM packages. You have CAD data in there you want to get into Windchill, and then want to implement WTParts, or there's some type of a eBOM project you have that you want to help have some better tools to help deploy that. And then there's custom projects. So some names on here and what we did with them or they did themselves. These are production proven applications that we're going to be showing today as one key takeaway. So I'll talk about Windchill Merge first. In this case, it was one of our local customers here in the Midwest. Toro had acquired another company, Boss, that was part of Northern Star Industries. Northern Star had Windchill deployed, and they needed to carve out part of their data and take that out of the Northern Star Windchill instance and merge it into the Toro instance. Their requirements were full object history, and they wanted to minimize downtime. So really a way to, whenever the production merge was going to happen, they wanted it to be done over a weekend completely to eliminate engineering downtime during the week. So the PTC Windchill Bulk Migrator was the tool of choice. The revision 4 and now the latest version 11.0, they're more robust, but they're still very complicated tool sets. But they met the requirements for this project quite nice. So a little review. This is just a graphic out of the PTC documentation with a little bit of my embellishment with logos. The bulk migrator is pulling from source. You do some transforming, mapping in the staging database, pushing it into the Windchill target, and doing validation that everything is accurate. What the project looked like for us and our customer was they had their Windchill person on the Toro side, they had a Windchill person on the Boss side, we had a technical project manager, and then a migration consultant, really doing the day-to-day work. We mobilized in August, and then did test migrations through September and October, and did a production migration in November over a weekend. Because they already owned Boss, they had already brought some of their data into Windchill, so there's duplicate file reconciliation that we had to do, and because we're a software partner, we have existing tools, and we were able to automate that and make that a very easy process, and make that simple, fast, and risk-free. So if you're looking at Windchill Merge for any of your upcoming projects, we'd love to talk to you in more depth over those. I'm going to move on though to some of the other batch migration and bulk loading projects. And our core one that we first were trying to solve was bulk loading Creo data from the network file shares. And if you've ever done manual data loading of Creo from file shares, it is very time consuming, and trying to make sure the data is all getting there accurately and reconciling a lot of the issues that can happen. So that was just a huge pain point that we wanted to try to automate as much as possible. And then what quickly followed is we had customers with SolidWorks and AutoCAD and all these other CAD systems, that didn't have any way of bulk loading the into Windchill, and so we extended link loader to support other file types. And what we're going to be demoing today is the Creo one for sure will show the document loader as well. You're going to see a standard workflow where we do a duplicate file check on the network share, and then we do some data validation. This is specific really to CAD data, making sure the CAD data is, has some level of robustness, and also pulling parameters from those CAD files that you can use for attributes, and then actually doing the loading and mapping into Windchill. And these are what the user interfaces look like that you'll see in Ben's video here. So moving to the, what it looks like here, firing up the application, and immediately there's a configuration screen, entering in the, URL, username and password, and some other information that's key. Maybe setting up your IBAs that you want to map. You can do that all from this screen. So he's testing the connection, successful. All right, let's move on. And at this point, you're just moving left to right across those tabs. The second tab says Discovery. So Ben's going to pick the file folders that he wants to, discover. This is where the application is going to go down and find all the files. In this case, show me all the Creo files that are in there. And then it's discovered them. There's no duplicate names down in the lower pane. If there were duplicate names, I mean, we've seen customers that have, 1,000 001.prt files, recursively down through, thousands of folders. And, you can't load two files with the same name. So if there were duplicate names found, you get a list. You can go reconcile which one you want to load, which one you don't. You move the extra files out of your out of the path here, and then you validate that you have uniquely named objects, and you move on to the next tab. Next tab is validation, which you can see on the screen here, and this is where, in the case of Creo, we're going to do a analysis of the Creo files, and we're looking for duplicate instances. Does the file open? Does it regenerate? There's a certain rigor to the Creo file that not all CAD systems need as much rigor as the Creo objects. But we're doing that validation, and now once that's complete and it passes, we move to the next step, which Ben is showing here is the migration tab. So prior to migration, and what you're seeing in the top screen there is that all the files are named in the left here, and then we're looking for life cycle and location and revision, and this is where you'd have your other attributes that you want to map. And anytime you're loading objects into Windchill, you at minimum need to give it a revision, a life cycle, and a folder location where you want that to go. So at this stage of the process, we need to go in and create that mapping file. So, Ben is, exporting a seed file that you can then populate. This, the IBAs could have been pulled from the CAD file, but you still have to ensure that there's locations and revisions and life cycles. So in this case, the tool itself just uses a tab delimited text file. Ben's going to open that up in Excel, I believe, and show and just create a quick copy so that all the data is present. So there's our 3 key fields that he has going on there. We've had other customers either have us or themselves have written little apps to pull their MRP or ERP data out here to automatically populate attributes or revisions or whatever it might be, and so that you don't have to manually do this. But if you want to, if you know where everything's going, you can quickly manipulate it into Excel and save it as a tab delimited file. And then it reads right back into the application, which you're going to see here. Now when he reads the file back in, right there, see all the other fields are completed. Some of those are family tabled, so you see. Now we're clicking on Migrate, and this is where we're going to go in and we're going to load all the objects into Windchill and map the metadata. That's complete. And we have, if there were errors, they'd be recorded. You can save error lists off from that. Does a screen refresh and the objects are all loaded in. So that's what the link loader for Creo looks like. And the other objects, I'm going to play the document loader that Ben created here, the video. You're going to see a similar workflow and going through and saying, here's my PDFs that I want to load in. Fire up our link loader app. Again, there's a configuration screen. It's more simplified because we're just dealing with the WT documents. You know, discovery, we still need to have unique file names. So in this case, you know, we still need to do that discovery step. There's no real validation that needs to happen. So we can go right to the mapping phase. And in this case, he's got a text file ready to go that he imports. You can see the columns are all filled out there. He, you know, if I passed over it on the earlier one, some pre-checks and duplicate checks, again, to make sure things are all good inside of Windchill and that you don't have any potential conflicts, and everything loads successfully. Screen refresh, and there's your documents. PTC has some loaders as well to do document loading. One thing that you know, this isn't as complicated as the CAD loader, but what it is nice is that you can give it to a department manager or group, and they can use this to batch load in, you know, from their client, rather than having to do this on the Windchill, you know, server, and you know, bog down your admins from doing data loading and all of that. And it gives the more control to the owners of that data. So had one question, and it'll come up here again. We have one question on attributes. In the Creo loader, and any of the CAD loaders, they will pull parameters from the CAD files. So as we're analyzing or doing the validation on the CAD files, we pull out any of the parameters that are inside of the CAD file. So if you have a description parameter or you know, a material parameter or something like that, we pull that out, and that can be mapped and loaded into a Windchill attribute. And so absolutely, we handle all of that, and we're going to show in this next section where we're pulling attributes out of the SolidWorks PDM, and then we're, you know, pushing those in and remapping some into Windchill. And this is for sure one of our most popular. You know, if I look at most of our projects right now, I bet half of them are dealing with pulling data from, you know, third-party PDM, mostly PDM Works and ePDM, and pushing that into Windchill. What's happening here is we have an application that's doing the extraction, and then link loader, the framework of the link loader that you just saw, is doing the loading. What we're able to do in this, that validation step of opening every CAD file or processing every CAD file, is we can skip it in this scenario because we've pulled it out of the other PDM. We know all the relationships that the other PDM had, and we're mapping those right into Windchill. The downside of not doing the validation is if the previous PDM had some bad relationships between the files, or there was a missing file, you know, once you push it over into Windchill, you're going to have the same thing. So the validation step is optional. We have customers that would like to do it, and we have others that skip it. So, but the project that I'm highlighting, you know, the customer had a mission critical project. They were consolidating some manufacturing facilities. They needed to get quality documentation and other drawings all into a single global Windchill instance. So people could access that data from anywhere and always have it be accurate. It looked, you know, there was over 100,000 SolidWorks files from about 9 different sites, multiple different PDMs going on there. you know, graphically speaking, it looked like this: 9 different data sets all needing to go into one Windchill. How the project worked was, you know, the customer had their key Windchill person at the global Windchill site. There was a compliance person from, you know, looking at it from the compliance side, as far as anytime we did a test migration, they would go through and do their QA checks to ensure that that it was going to meet their audits. And then each one of those 9 locations had a key user, you know, or a key admin that was you know, on point for that particular migration. We broke it into 9 separate migrations, so each site had its own migration. We did 1 per month. There was all sorts of duplicate part, you know, reconciliation that had to go on because some of these files had already been pushed over in some shape or form. But every single one of the migrations, you know, basically the first week of the month we did a test migration. The next 2 weeks was, you know, compliance. The customer was just ensuring that everything was valid. If we had to do any additional tests, we'd get them done during those 2 weeks. And then the last week of the month, that Friday, everybody would check their files into ePDM or PDM Works or to the file share. They'd get all their updated ones in there, check them all in, leave for the weekend. They come back on Monday, and on Monday they would check their files out of Windchill, and away they would work. You know, they had to lead up with they had some training and other things that they did ahead of time, but the reality is they checked stuff in on Friday, they came in on Monday and checked it out of Windchill. So, so it was nice in that we were able to spread the project. Each division or each location was you know, spread out over a 9-month period. So it just let the team be able to do these, you know, with low risk and get them done kind of, you know, quickly and just punch them out with great success. The one other thing when we're extracting here, this application, so if you wanted to buy this today, we do latest iteration out of ePDM and PDM Works. We have begun the development of doing full history out of ePDM, but you know, we've talked to over 20 companies now about it, and every one of them has always said, you know, we're good with latest iteration. They want full history, but when you talk about the cost or complexity there, it usually comes back to, we're fine with just doing the latest because it's, you know, low cost and low risk. Our customers that are looking at history, most of the time their historical control document is a PDF of a drawing anyway, and we can load full history of the PDF and satisfy, you know, having a historical record with the PDF, and then having the latest be the you know, the parametric assembly and model and drawing. But if you are interested in full history, we definitely want to talk to you, because we're just looking for a partner who does want to dig into the deep end a little bit. We have a good idea and framework we've begun to work on, but it's really to move it to the top of the pile would help to have a customer help us there. So I think some customers we have some projects we've done around Vault. Most Vault projects, the customer has exported the latest file there, and there's multiple SolidWorks PDMs that we've worked with. So they've changed their names a few times. So what we can support and do support out of the box, there's a number of them, but if you're curious, we just need to know which version you're running, what it's called, and we can tell you if it works out of the box or if we need to make tweaks. What the demo looks like. And on the extraction side, there's nothing, it's not that exciting, and we're just going to show a small assembly here that we're going to pull out. You know, being primarily a PTC house here, you know, we're a SolidWorks development partner, but we don't use it that often. We don't have a ton of huge databases, but from the extraction side, you know, pulling out a small assembly here, you know, fairly simple user interface of username and password, extracting the data. In this case, it's 5 files. Those are pulled out. And then turning around and using the SolidWorks loader, and you're going to see a user interface again, like the, you know, another link loader user interface where you're entering that, you're moving to the Discovery tab. You know, in this case, we didn't need to do validation of any kind because we had pulled it directly from the SolidWorks PDM. You can see that the revision lifecycle and location are already filled in because that's what came out of the SolidWorks PDM, but that's not what Windchill wants because those locations are not correct for Windchill. So Ben's going to do a find and replace on the text file so that they're going to the correct location when it goes into Windchill. So he's massaging that mapping file. This is where you would, if we would have pulled out more attributes if they existed here. They would just be another tab spaced here, and they would all be there. This is also where if you wanted to pull material and other descriptions and things like that from ERP, this is where you'd fill those in as additional fields and read them back in and do your pre-checks, and you know that everything that you're stating is accurate to the Windchill business rules, and then do the load. All those files get loaded successfully. There's an error log again if you need to check that, and in this case, files are all loaded and structure, so the assembly knows which parts belong to it and quantities, etc. So what I just demoed was pulling the files out of SolidWorks PDM, latest iteration only. If you're looking for full history, we definitely want to talk to you. We did not do the validation. We were able to skip that because we pulled it from PDM. We have customers that do the validation, though. They still want to run through that, which is fine. You do the mapping file for any of your attributes that you want to change, get your life cycle, your revision in there, and then load the files into Windchill. So when looking at enterprise parts or WTParts and implementing those, there's a number of tools. PTC has some tools, and then Fishbowl has some tools that fit in nice, and they can all coexist. So if you're using other methods for getting this in, but you need to maybe use one of our tools, we have some modules here that might be interesting, and I'll talk to those points. But the key thing with WTParts really is, what is the strategy? What are you going to use them for? And thinking that through, and that's something that Fishbowl's, from the standpoint of getting higher level to understand what. Just don't implement them for the sake because you can have them. It's really to have a purpose for what you're implementing, because we had a lot of customers that we go in and talk to that have WTParts, and one of the first things you sometimes have to do is you got to, maybe delete them altogether and recreate them, or sometimes do a ton of massaging to that data because they weren't done correctly, or they just hadn't thought of how they were going to use them before. So what is your strategy? What our tool is, it has one name, but it's really 3 different tools. And one of them is it creates the WTParts. Another one, you create the WTPart structure. And the third part is you create linkages between WTParts and documents and CAD files and other things in Windchill. We have a lot of customers that buy this just to do the linking, but because you don't need to use our tool to do the creation, you can do linking no matter how the WTPart was created. So just the linking alone is a popular module. And the original creation of this was quite a while ago, and it was on a customer. They had a division over in Germany, and they had 750,000 WTParts they needed to create. It was based on an SAP dump of data, and they didn't want it matching their CAD. It wasn't supposed to match their CAD data structure or any of those things. So we first wrote this tool as a way to create lots of parts simply and without having to use some of the PTC tools that were kind of all or none, where you had to create 750,000 perfectly or the whole batch would fail. This was a nice alternative. So I'll show the demo for WTParts. Ben's firing up the user interface. Same idea with username or password, and in this case, the first tab is construct. So this is where you're creating if you want to create WTParts, you use this tab. Pretty straightforward tab delimited file of what we want the tool to create, and going through and doing pre-checks that things look good, and then doing the actual construction of those WTParts with validation that everything was successful, and then you'll see the WTParts were created. This screen Ben's showing, right now there's no structure to it, it's just WTParts were created. So if you want to create structure, it's optional. In this case, it's also driven by a simple tab delimited file that Ben just showed you. Go through, do your pre-checks, everything looks good. Is it successful? Now your structure was created. Do a screen refresh. And then that's accomplished. Now looking at the links there for any CAD files, none exist. So let's go through and build links. And these could be, to anything, and we support multiple link types, and it's another simple tab delimited user interface. It's explicit, so you tell it exactly what you want it to do, and it will do it. Or if it doesn't exist or whatever, it will fail, and it'll only fails on the one that's wrong. It'll do the rest successfully. In this case, he's showing, here's the owner and the content link that he asked the tool to create, and the other ones were created as well. So before we get to some of the questions that are stacking up, everyone has some can have some unique things that they need to do in their loading project. We've done a few of them. We've done some funky things with co-create 2D files. We've done some things where people want to load a Creo file but pull PDFs from some other vault to be a default attachment. So we've done some of those other things. We've worked on some custom loaders for other customers for various projects. So the first 4 things we hit on here are key things, between the PTC tools and the Fishbowl tools to be able to deliver, any type of project, large or small, and no matter how complex or maybe straightforward, as we showed with some of the document loading. As far as questions, we have one question that is, what about AutoCAD Vault? I kind of talked to that. We don't have an extractor for Vault yet. We've done at least 2 projects I know of, and the customer just wanted to pull their own. We'd be interested if you have Vault at talking more about that. I think it's a pretty simple API. If parts exist in a released state, can the tool add an eBOM without revising and iterating the part? So if I'm thinking what you're saying is the WTPart is at a released state, can our tool, create the BOM without revising or iterating the part? I think the answer is yes on that. If I'm understanding it correctly, what you're asking, it'd be yes. And then the next question is about initiating an eBOM creation programmatically instead of with the UI. Talks right to the point that's highlighted in red there. We absolutely have done that. Worked behind or ahead of the UI to initiate custom loading projects, custom loads without going through the UI. So the answer is yes. And then we're looking at pulling SolidWorks parts from one of our ePDM system into Windchill. Have you done that? Yes. Yes, we have done it. It'd be interesting, and I can I'll capture that one and follow up with that person. But if you want to do it, one at a time or based on some kind of a trigger, we can talk about that if you want to do it in bulk. We did show that, and this the AVIs will be available to watch. And then, does your part loader also apply to WT parts that use PartsLink?
It does work with PartsLink, but it's not perfect yet.
Okay.
You can make it work. It'll work, but you have to ignore some errors. So we have some development time there still.
Okay. So you're creating a WT part that needs to have the right nodes or something.
Yeah, they keep changing PartsLink on us, so.
Okay. Good question for PartsLink. And I think the feedback we're getting from multiple people now is PartsLink isn't perfect, smiley face. Yeah, so we're doing we actually have a few PartsLink projects going on now where just doing some remapping and some customers making some changes to that. So Ben, who you just heard from, would know how perfect it is. And I think that's it for questions. We'll capture those, and then I know a number of people asked that we email out the link to the replay of this, which we'll do, and the demos will be cut into smaller, shorter, 4-minute segments as well, and those will be available on our website and YouTube. So thank you all for your time, and have a great day.